if it's true that what we're really after in our relationships is partnership, how do we get there? What are the ingredients to creating partnership? Yeah.
I've been told by a financial advisor that the only ship that never sailed was a partnership.
Okay, that's a clever thing to remember. So, in other words, I think the implication of that statement is that you can do things yourself, by yourself, and you can get by just fine. Plenty of people do in life. They do their thing, do their own thing, follow their own path. But when it comes to creating partnership, it requires something of you that's not required of you when you're a sole actor, when you just are up to your own thing, doing your own thing. So consider that there are certain elements, what I call dimensions, that lead to the possibility of partnership. We're going to spend just a little bit of time looking at these dimensions and exploring this. And I'm going to give you a chance to experience these dimensions throughout today. All of what we're doing can be traced today, all of what we're doing today can be traced back to working within one of the three dimensions with the intention of being better at creating partnership, with the intention of enhancing relationships, with the intention of building leadership. So we're going to the fundamental core levels of what it takes to develop true leadership through the quality of your relationships. The first dimension of any relationship is simply contact. You walk into a restaurant, as an example. Right away, you are in contact with everybody else in the restaurant. Yes or no? You may not be consciously thinking about your relationship with the people there, but you have a relationship with the people there. Yes or no? You have a relationship because you are in the same physical space. You're sharing the same small community called the restaurant. So you have a relationship and you have contact. Now, most of this goes unspoken or unthought of. We assume a lot here. One of the things that we assume are some of the agreements that we have in our relationships, all relationships. That's dimension 2, is you have agreement. A lot of times agreement doesn't take the form of actual agreement. It takes the form of expectations or assumptions. How many of you know what I'm talking about? So let's come back to our restaurant example. You walk into a restaurant, you have contact with everybody there. What is an agreement you have with the people in the restaurant?
You're not going to scream fire.
Unless there is.
Well, yeah.
Unless there is a fire. You're not just going to scream something to distract people or to get people to be afraid. So that's an agreement you have. What's another one?
That you're going to feed you and let you eat.
So that with the people that work there, someone is going to come up, greet you, give you a table. Someone's going to come up and take your order. You have an agreement with the people who work in the restaurant, but I'm also talking about the people who are patrons in the restaurant. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So there is an unspoken agreement that when you walk into a restaurant, you're not going to walk up to someone's table, hey, that looks good, and start eating, right? If you were to do that, you would find yourself immediately in dimension 3. Conflict. Now, conflict is one of those aspects of relationships that's a bit tricky, when we're going to spend some time on conflict in the second segment after our first break. It's tricky because of the way we think about conflict. It's our definitions of conflict fundamentally that sometimes makes it tricky, right? So it's something that we all experience. You can't avoid it, but the question is, how do you deal with it? How do you navigate conflict? How do you manage conflict? Can you actually resolve it in healthy and functional and productive ways? There are many strategies to do so, and we'll touch on some of those today. But the point is that to build partnership, you have to sometimes have conflict. If you want to truly build partnership, think of it in this way. Those of you who are married or have significant others and you think of them as your partner, have you ever been in a relationship with someone for any period of time and not had a fight with them? Anybody ever have the experience? You've been in a long-term relationship and never had a fight?
You're lying.
Yourself? Okay. So
Say you never did, you're lying.
I'll submit to you one of two things were true. Either you had conflict with them, you just weren't aware of it. In other words, you had certain desires or a point of view or wants or needs that were in conflict with what they wanted or needed, and it just wasn't spoken. But it existed, right? Or you really didn't have partnership with them. You didn't reach the capacity of what that relationship was capable of reaching. You didn't reach the potential of that relationship. So for a relationship to reach its potential, conflict is necessary. And the reality is that all three of these dimensions are required to create partnership. Contact, agreement, conflict. They're all necessary, inevitable, and it's a question of how you do these, not if you do these. All right, so with this idea, question?
So if you lose contact, is that like when partnership begins to crumble?
Well, sometimes partnership begins to crumble when it's not if you lose contact, it's the quality of the contact. In other words, it's the way in which you have contact. So, you're in contact with people that you have relationships with even when you're not with them. Because when you think about someone who's not here, right now, in your mind, think about someone. Okay, as you're thinking about them, the more you think about them, the more that influences how you're going to be with them when you see them again, or when you communicate with them again. So your thoughts are a form of contact that influence the actual manifestation of contact. Same thing on their end. They're thinking about you. It influences how they are being with you, what they say, how they say it, what they do, next time that they see you or interact with you. I do this because what does that indicate? Texting, right? Or typing or using electronic communication. So you essentially have contact with anybody you have a relationship with at any moment. It's just a matter of bringing it to mind.
So if you don't think of them, that quality of contact is lost.
Well, it depends. It depends on what it's like when you're with them. Like, how is it that you are actually connected to them, in contact with them, okay? So I'm glad you're asking the question because it kind of sets up what we're about to do. All right.